So now I'm an individual retail investor, and I've been riding the vicissitudes of the stock market for the last 10 years. Started out with 10,000, now I have $10,001. It goes up and it goes back down. Um, Now I want to get into something where my investment is secured by something more tangible, like real estate. How do I invest?
Absolutely. So what you can do is go to our website, lexmarkets.com.
Mhm.
You can find us on the App Store. I think we're on iOS now and in
Wow.
with the Android. And you can create an account. You'll be put on the wait list until our official launch. And at that point, what you're able to do is you'll see some of the assets that we are working closely with that are in talks of becoming a qualified offering. And that's that indication of interest point, that testing the waters period, where you can actually just say, I'm interested in that particular asset if that were to become an offering at valuations and whatnot. Once the offering is qualified and made public with the SEC, then you are able to deposit funds into a brokerage account that we have connected with our partners at Apex, and you'll be able to invest in the property. And these properties, the securities that are in the properties are all QSIPed, and you will own a share of the entity that is public with this property. What that entitles you to is a proportionate amount of cash flow from that property. And each of the shares we arbitrarily price at the initial offering phase of $100. So it's an easy benchmark price. So you're able to kind of do the easy math on it. So one share at the initial offering is $100, and that $100 benchmark could go up and down on the trading system based on supply and demand of that particular asset class.
Wow.
Asset.
Well, that's great. Man, I have a ton of questions. So, let's say that I'm the owner. Now I have this portfolio of assets, and I have multiple classes. I have D classes, B classes, C classes, A class, uh, and across the spectrum. I may own some hotels over here, some multifamily over here, and I'm looking to create liquidity for my portfolio. And I come to you and I say, I want to put my either portfolio or individual property. Okay, and so tell me if I could. Are you only dealing with portfolios, or are you also dealing with individual properties?
Right. So it's only individual properties. And the reason we're doing it is because we want the investors to make their own portfolio. We want them to pick and choose from different sponsors, different markets, different classes, and create their own portfolio.
Okay. So now I'm an owner. I want to put one of my properties on your platform. Walk me through that process, and then give me some timelines in terms of how long does it take to go through the underwriting, what I could expect in terms of cost, and then when is my asset ready to go public, if you will.
Absolutely. So we'll have an initial conversation with the owner, first explaining what this whole thing is, because it's obviously a novel concept and there's a lot of questions that are involved in just the general idea of creating a real estate securities marketplace. So we walk them through that. And then my team, the underwriting team on the investment banking side, we work hand in hand with them to identify the property within their portfolio that works at this time for this sort of public offering, right? Because I mentioned we're only dealing with the stable cash flowing assets that have already finished redevelopment or the value add component to it. There's not a lot of meat on the bone left for value add. It's really just general market appreciation at that point. And we'll identify that property with them, say this works. They'll say, yeah, we want to hold this asset, forever. This is going to be a legacy asset for us. This isn't tied to a fund or anything. Or maybe we're using the funds to buy out the LP partner that does want to get out of the deal, or pay some pref or expensive mezz or something, right? That they have from that transitional phase of it. we'll identify that, we'll recap it. That money flows to the investor. So it's a best efforts offering, meaning they have to hit a minimum threshold for them to be satisfied with it for it to close. And once the offering closes, the money is deposited into the operating company that holds title to the asset. So that's the company it is. It's a company. And that money is used for, buying out the partner, paying down mezz, whatever it is. And they stay on in the deal. So they're still involved in the deal. The GPs have to stay on in the deal because when you're marketing this to these investors, they want to invest alongside some of these owners. They know who some of these people are pretty recognizable real estate owners. And they want to be involved in that transaction. So they stay on in the deal and they continue to manage it. And the proportionate amount of the equity that is offered to the public is taken from the cash flow of that operating company and given to public markets. So we're normally doing up to 49% of the equity in a deal, meaning, if it's a $100 million asset, $60 million of debt on it, your implied equity that you have to offer, and we'll take, rounding over here, $20 million of it floating to the public. And that 49% of the cash flow after the debt services, after any sort of retained earnings for leasing costs or whatever, is given proportionally right to the investors as a form of cash.
Oh, that's great. So you kind of build in some risk protection, some, I would call it cyclical risk protection. If there's a downturn, you haven't overcapitalized it in terms of outside equity and debt to the point to where you can't create enough cash flow to service debt because it's over leveraged in a sense.
Correct. And that's why we work with the real estate owners very closely to identify the right asset that works for this. Now, there's plenty of fantastic assets that have come across our desk where we would love to have done it. It's just not the right point of time. Maybe they're just barely covering the debt service ratio, right? Maybe 1.01, or there's still some redevelopment that needs to go on with it. Maybe they did, 60% of the units and they have 40% left and they have, $5 million of CapEx parked for it. It's not quite there yet. And we want to make sure that we're only offering the cash flow component of the real estate to these investors.
Wow. So now the timing from the time you start the underwriting process until that project is approved and ready to go on the platform. What is that? What is the idea of what that timing should look like?
Yeah. So behind the scenes, what LEX is doing is offering this white glove service where we're the intermediary for the real estate owner and all of the different counterparties that are involved in a public offering. And there's auditors, there's issuer counsel, there's the third party, vendors that need to go involved in this. There's tax consultants. All of that additional services is bundled into the LEX placement fee as a one-time cost to the owners to get this offering done. That whole process usually takes around 3 to 4 months. So beginning to end, it's a 3 to 4 month process from when we identify the property, when we sign the engagement letter with the owner to be their investment bank for this, and to when it's qualified and collecting money from the investors at that point.
Okay, that makes sense. Wow. So it's exciting. I can see how this works for a lot of those what I call merchant builders who will go out and develop and create products for REITs. Now you have an alternative, and of course I can see some other products that can be developed once this particular product that you're offering matures. And I won't say what those other products are, but I'm thinking of some things that might be a great complement to what you guys are doing. So I know that you guys are in the proof of concept stage. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I think I read that somewhere.
Yes.
So where are you in that process? And when do you think this is going to be something that becomes more widely available?
Sure. So right now we have about a handful of assets that are in various stages of the deal life cycle for public offering. Um, whether it's in the initial stages, or it's actually starting to gather indications of interest on a potential offering. And we anticipate having the first few live by the end of the summer, early fall. I would say is probably the best bet, when you can actually start depositing money into an account, the brokerage account, and receiving the shares of those assets.
Wow.
The assets that are currently live on the platform are still in the indication of interest phase, meaning that we're still gathering information, doing a lot of behind the scenes qualification stuff with the SEC to get those through. And we have a substantial pipeline of assets behind that of,
I bet.
yeah,
Right.
very interested real estate owners who are just want to see one, so they can see the paperwork, the public filings and the structure, and see that it works and that there's the appetite for it. And they already have the assets lined up. They already have identified the assets. We've already seen what the assets they're talking about. And I mean, these assets range, in the tens of millions to over $1 billion assets
Wow.
that we're working with. So those are the people that are just waiting for the proof of concept to go through.
Right.
And expect a windfall of exponential growth right after.
Wow.
We're hoping to have a significant amount of offerings on the platform in the next 6 to 12 months, so that the investors can start to build out their portfolio as they choose.
Okay, great. So now LEX is a private company.
LEX is a private company. It is
right now.
a startup.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna keep an eye on you guys. So now I know that this platform is really designed to cater to the retail investor, but have you seen any demonstrated interest from institutional investors?
Absolutely. We have spoken to quite a lot of the institutional investors, the much larger institutional investors who have, millions of accounts with them.
Right.
And they already know about us and they want to plug in to our trading system. It's a very long and rigorous process for them to do behind the scenes, with a lot of regulations and needing to see the product. But those conversations have already started, and they are eager to hop on board once the doors open for them. So ultimately, at the when we are fully operational in hopefully not so distant future, the ability to invest in these properties is going to be as easy as opening an app that you probably already have on your phone with a brokerage account that you already have, and just finding one of these properties and investing in it.
Wow, that is great. Well, it's exciting. I look forward to seeing how this thing develops and transitions from concept to actual practical solution. So that's great. So what else would you like for our audience to know about LEX, about the platform, anything that we didn't cover that you would think would be very important to share at this moment?
Yeah, I mean, outside of what I briefly mentioned with our recent partnership with NASDAQ, which we're really excited about, they see us as going forward being the standard for commercial real estate securities, place to go for all of that sort of trading of commercial real estate securities. And we are super excited to have that partnership with them, using their technologies that they already have in place to power our trading system, and utilizing their network going forward. It's super helpful for us, and we love that they're very excited about what we're doing. They talk about us a lot. Our investors talk about us a lot. So the people behind the scenes, Alan Patrikoff, one of our lead investors, he always goes on CNBC and loves to talk about us. So it's really exciting to see all of these major players who have been in the industry for probably longer than I've been born talk about this novel concept and see the vision that our founders see when they made the company, where this could potentially go. And we really want to unlock that for everybody. So that's kind of what our goal is, and that's what we hope the LEX Markets ends up being.
Wow, that's great. So it's crowdfunding on steroids, right? So it's taking it to another level. Well, that's great. One of the problems that's really kept a lot of people out of commercial real estate investing is that lack of liquidity. And now you're creating a liquidity for this market, and that's going to be phenomenal. Not only is it going to be phenomenal for assets here in the United States, it's going to be phenomenal for assets throughout the world. So, do you see any competition? Maybe foreign companies doing the same thing?
We've seen similar concepts. There's one in the UK that's doing something similar. They're still using a REIT structure. But I really don't know the regulations behind security offerings in the UK to speak on it, but we do know that it somewhat exists in the UK. We're the standard for the US. US real estate is a powerful asset class globally, and we've actually been talking to a lot of foreign investors who have money parked in the US and want to invest in real estate, and they can't find those deals necessarily. And we've already had conversations with them where they're able to invest in this product. Additionally, we've actually already had conversations with some international real estate owners in Canada, in Brazil, in India, who are also very interested in this type of in this type of offering.
Right.
We are working out ways to bring those offerings of the foreign properties into the domestic markets to be tradable here. So we're figuring out those, intricacies of foreign investing, but that is ultimately where the goal is to be for LEX, to be the global trading platform for commercial real estate.
Wow, very good. Now, one final question, and I know I'm jumping back and forth, but I know, like with other public offerings, the company has to do quarterly reports, annual reports, 10K reports, and they have to be audited. So would that be the same with regards to this? And who's providing that service? Is that a service you provide, or is that a third party that's providing that?
Great question. So yes, the Reg A offerings that we do necessitate for reporting requirements. They are less burdensome than a full S1 filing that would need quarterly reportings and all that. So this actually just needs a semi-annual reporting, so it's a 1SA, and the annual reporting, which is audited, which is the 1K, which is similar to your 10K, as well as the disclosure sort of things like an 8K where you have a material event. You have things like that. We work as the administrator after the fact, after the offering, to help with those reporting requirements. So we still have those relationships with the auditors, with the accounting firms and the tax firms that are doing all of this stuff behind the scenes, that relationship with them in order to facilitate all of those reporting requirements going forward. So the burden isn't on the real estate owner to do that. All they have to do is provide the normal financials that they would normally give to a JV partner, to our servicer, and everything is done behind the scenes. So as long as that's all taken care of and they provide us with everything that they normally would provide to their partners, to worry about the additional burdens of reporting or being a reporting company. The structure works in a way that it actually separates them. And the cost associated with that is actually embedded in the investors' cash flows. So the cash flow coming to them, it's an expense line item to the investors in order to be a reporting company.
Makes sense. Wow, that's great. So I know that there are going to be a lot of things that happen over the next 6 months to a year, 18 months. I would love to have you back on this program to kind of give us an update with regards to your progress.
I'd absolutely love to.
Yeah, this is phenomenal. We'll be actually posting this podcast not only on our CRE media and event site, but we also have a investor site called PRC Investor Network. And this is great because this is one of the questions we get all of the time when we're recruiting investors to our crowdfunding platform. We may identify an asset that we want to purchase on the platform, but the question about liquidity always comes up. And so this could be a great solution, not only for our platform, but also for many similar platforms for folks who are acquiring assets in this crowd environment, for the benefit of its investors. So this, I'm excited. I look forward to seeing how this thing happens and unveils.
A lot of these crowdfunding sites that, people kind of wrap their mind and think that we actually see them not as competitors, but as potential clients going forward.
Yes.
So we want to work with those crowdfunding sites because they have a portfolio of assets without the liquidity.
Right. Yep. Now, right now, you're going to be trading the actual asset. Do you see at some point in the future where your platform will be used to trade debt securities, perhaps?
We are talking behind the scenes with a lot of different security products that currently do not have the liquidity component to
Right.
it. We are working very closely with a lot of different companies that have different security offerings, and on the debt side as well, in order to bring more liquidity to those otherwise privately traded investments.
Right. Wow. If you're not careful, you might put the banks totally out of commercial real estate. They've been trying to put themselves out of commercial real estate for a long time, but I think you might help them a little bit here.
Yeah. Well, we would love to work with some of these large investment banks in doing the offerings.
Right.
That's a plan going forward as well, is getting them interested enough in these offerings. The sheer volume of quantity of what we can do should be enticing to them. And we would love for them to assist us in the underwriting part, because ultimately it's going to end up trading on our platform anyway.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I'll tell you what, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a great interview, great show. I learned a lot. I still have 100 questions, but I'll get a chance to ask that at a future date. And I'm certainly going to continue to track this platform and see how it develops, because I think it's going to be a game changer for the commercial real estate space.
Charles, it was a pleasure being on. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, no worries. See you later.